For most of human history, guava did not grow in markets, farms, or orchards. It grew in thick tropical forests where sunlight barely touched the ground. There were no farmers pruning the trees, no traders carrying baskets of fruit, and no idea that this plant would one day spread across half the planet. In fact, the earliest guava trees were part of an ecosystem that looked completely different from the one we know today. Giant mammals roamed the American tropics. Dense forests covered huge regions of land, and fruits like guava existed as quiet participants in a much larger natural system. But here is the strange part of the story. Guava was never designed to stay in one place. From the very beginning, its biology pushed it outward, waiting for something to carry its seeds farther than the tree itself could reach. And thousands of years later, that simple evolutionary strategy would turn a wild forest fruit into one of the most widely spread tropical fruits in the world. To understand how that happened, we have to travel back to the tropical belt of the Americas, long before modern civilization shaped agriculture. The plant we call guava today belongs to the species Psidium guayava, part of the myrtle family, a botanical group that also includes plants like cloves and eucalyptus. Scientists studying plant genetics believe this species originated somewhere between southern Mexico, Central America, and parts of northern South America. This region holds the highest diversity of wild guava populations, which usually signals the place where a species first evolved. The earliest guava trees were not carefully cultivated crops. They were wild trees growing along forest edges, riverbanks, and open clearings where sunlight allowed fruiting plants to thrive. Their fruits were smaller than modern varieties, often more fibrous, sometimes sharply sour. But despite those rough characteristics, the fruit carried a powerful survival advantage: an enormous number of seeds. A single guava fruit can contain hundreds of tiny seeds. For a plant living in dense tropical ecosystems, that level of reproduction is a strategy for survival. But seeds alone do not spread themselves. They need movement. They need carriers. This is where the story becomes surprisingly dramatic. Long before humans farmed guava, animals were already participating in its life cycle. Many tropical mammals were attracted to the fruit's strong aroma and sugar content. When these animals ate guavas, the seeds passed through their digestive systems and were deposited far away from the parent tree. That process dramatically increased the chances of new guava trees growing in new locations. Some researchers believe that prehistoric megafauna, large animals that lived in the Americas thousands of years ago, played a particularly important role in spreading guava seeds across wide territories. Giant ground sloths and other now extinct mammals moved through forests consuming fruits and redistributing seeds across the landscape. In a sense, guava evolved in partnership with animals that disappeared long before written history began. When many of those large animals went extinct, toward the end of the Ice Age, entire ecosystems shifted. Many plants that relied on large mammals struggled to spread. But guava did something remarkable. It found a new partner: humans. Indigenous communities living throughout tropical America were already familiar with guava long before European explorers arrived. For them, it was not an exotic fruit or a luxury product. It was simply part of the surrounding environment. People gathered the fruits, ate them fresh, and quickly discovered something important. Not all guava trees produced the same kind of fruit. Some trees produced sweeter guavas, others produced larger fruits with softer pulp. Some had strong aromas that made them easier to detect in dense forests. Over generations, people naturally favored these better trees. They protected them, planted their seeds closer to settlements, and gradually influenced the genetic direction of the plant. This quiet human selection marked the beginning of guava domestication. It was not a sudden invention of agriculture, but a slow partnership between people and plants. Every time someone chose to plant seeds from a sweeter fruit instead of a bitter one, the next generation of trees changed slightly. Meanwhile, guava was already becoming something more than just food. Indigenous medicinal traditions across the Americas began using the plant in different ways. Guava leaves were brewed into herbal teas to treat digestive problems. Bark extracts were used for wound care. Even today, modern research confirms that guava leaves contain antibacterial compounds that support these traditional practices. So by the time Europeans arrived in the Americas during the 16th century, guava was already deeply integrated into local life. The first European encounters with guava happened during the early Spanish explorations of the Caribbean and Central America. Explorers and chroniclers documenting plants of the New World repeatedly mentioned a fragrant fruit growing abundantly in tropical landscapes. One of the earliest detailed descriptions came from the Spanish historian Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo in the mid-1500s. He recorded the fruit as common, aromatic, and widely consumed by local populations. But what surprised Europeans most was not the flavor. It was the plant's aggressive growth. Guava trees did not behave like the orchard fruits Europeans were familiar with. Apples, pears, and plums required careful cultivation. Guava, on the other hand, seemed almost unstoppable. It grew quickly, produced fruit within a few years, and spread easily through seeds. In many places it appeared almost wild, forming dense clusters of trees wherever conditions allowed. That natural resilience would soon become the key to guava's global journey, because the 16th century marked the beginning of one of the most transformative periods in world food history, the age of transoceanic trade. Spanish and Portuguese empires were establishing trade routes, connecting the Americas, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Ships crossing the oceans carried spices, silver, textiles, and increasingly something else, plants. This massive movement of crops between continents is now known as the Columbian Exchange, and it reshaped global agriculture forever. American crops like tomatoes, potatoes, maize, and chili peppers began appearing in distant parts of the world. Among them was guava. Spanish traders transported guava seeds from the Americas to their Asian colonies, particularly the Philippines. The Philippines served as a critical hub linking Spanish America with Asia through the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. Once guava arrived in Southeast Asia, it entered climates almost perfectly suited to its growth. Farmers quickly realized that guava trees thrived in tropical environments, similar to those of their original American habitats. The plant tolerated different soils, produced fruit relatively quickly, and required little maintenance. In short, it was the kind of crop that spread naturally. Once introduced from Southeast Asia, guava gradually expanded across neighboring regions. Trade networks and migration carried the plant to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. At this point, if you are really like videos like this, hit the like button and subscribe this channel, because this channel brings more interesting videos about food histories. Now let's continue. Portuguese colonial connections then helped introduce guava further west into India during the 17th century, and this is where guava's story enters an entirely new phase. In India, the fruit adapted extraordinarily well to local climates and agricultural systems. Farmers began cultivating guava extensively, selecting varieties that produced better flavor, larger size, and different flesh colors. Over time, new cultivars emerged with distinctive characteristics. Some developed white pulp, while others evolved the now famous pink interior that many consumers associate with guava today. These variations were the result of both natural mutation and human selection across generations of cultivation. As guava spread further across Asia and Africa, it continued adapting to different conditions. In many regions it became a backyard fruit tree, planted near homes because it required little care yet produced abundant harvests. However, the same qualities that made guava valuable to farmers sometimes created challenges for ecosystems. Because the tree grows rapidly and reproduces easily through seeds, it occasionally escaped cultivation and established wild populations in new regions. In places like Hawaii and parts of the Galapagos Islands, guava became classified as an invasive species because it competed with native plants. What humans saw as a productive fruit tree, nature sometimes treated as a powerful colonizer. Despite those ecological complications, guava's nutritional profile ensured its popularity continued to rise. The fruit contains extremely high levels of vitamin C, often significantly more than citrus fruits, as well as fiber, antioxidants, and essential minerals. In many tropical countries, guava became known as a nutritious and affordable fruit accessible to nearly everyone. During the 20th century, global agriculture expanded guava cultivation even further. Countries such as India, China, Thailand, Mexico, Brazil, and Pakistan developed large-scale production systems supplying both fresh fruit markets and processed products. Today guava appears in juices, candies, jams, desserts, and beverages around the world. Yet its global success still traces back to the same qualities that helped the plant survive in ancient forests: adaptability, resilience, and an ability to spread wherever conditions allow. From prehistoric seed dispersal by giant mammals to quiet domestication by indigenous communities. From colonial trade ships crossing oceans to modern farms producing tons of fruit each year, the journey of guava is a reminder that the foods we eat often carry histories far deeper than we imagine. And if this story surprised you, you're going to want to stay with this channel, because some of the most ordinary foods in our kitchens have the most extraordinary histories behind them. So if you enjoy uncovering the real stories hidden behind everyday food, make sure you subscribe and keep watching. The next time you see a simple fruit on your table, there is a good chance it has traveled through centuries of exploration, science, and cultural exchange before reaching you. And the next story might be even more surprising.